This is everything you need to do before bidding at an auction. Firstly, put an email to the agent asking for any material facts and also ask for the vendor's preference on settlement. At every auction, the auctioneer will announce the terms that people will be bidding on, but if you needed anything different, it's always best to have that agreed upon beforehand, so best to get that organised as soon as possible. Make sure you also speak to the agent about how they do the 10% deposit and speak to your bank to see if you can increase your daily limit. If you're successful, sometimes agents will let you do a $10,000 deposit on the day and the balance on Monday. Now, leading up to the auction, you have to understand it's an unconditional contract in Victoria, which means you can't call off and you can't add any conditions. But what you can do is you can change special conditions in the contract. You just have to have these agreed upon before the auction. So make sure you have the contract reviewed from a conveyancer or a solicitor before you bid. And give yourself enough time that if they have any concerns with the conditions, you can get the vendor's conveyancers to agree to changes before the auction. Now again, I would always recommend getting a building and pest inspection done on a property. As I said before, the contract is unconditional, so you can't back out. And if there are any problems with the property, this is also where you can allocate your budget towards fixing those problems instead of just going all in and then finding those problems later. And of course, before you bid, you need to speak to your mortgage broker or your bank, whoever you're dealing with, just to make sure they're comfortable that you're going to be bidding at an unconditional auction. So there's definitely a lot of communication you have to do before bidding. And then of course, all your due diligence you would normally do before the auction, like surrounding government housing, surrounding plans and permits, your neighbours, anything that you would need to know about. And then do a pricing assessment on the property, comparing it to properties that have sold recently within the last 3 months in the surrounding area that's a similar condition to the property you're bidding at. This should actually be one of the first things you do, because if you price the property up and you think it's worth $1 million and your budget's only worth $900,000, you shouldn't spend $700 getting a building and pest inspection done and $250 getting a contract reviewed. Now, once you've priced the property up, you need to make a decision before you go to an auction on what your budget's going to be. You have to understand, if you've never bid at an auction before, it is a high pressure environment. So it's best to make decisions beforehand. Otherwise, you'll be making these decisions under pressure with a time constraint, and often this is where people make big mistakes. So set a budget and stick to it. And if you set a budget, you have to ask yourself this question: if it were to go for more, even by $1,000, would I still bid? And if the question is yes, then increase your budget. You need to make sure you go to an auction with your walkaway price, because one of the biggest mistakes people make at an auction is they sit there and they talk during the auction. Make sure you don't do that. It's so obvious that you're close to your budget. Just sit and bid and bid and bid until you're at your limit, and then you're done. So once you know what the property's worth, your budget, you can actually bid. Your mortgage broker said that's okay. It's passed the building and pest inspection. The contract's fine. You can bid on the vendor's terms. It's probably auction day, and this is where you go and have a crack. I would always recommend going there a little bit earlier. Now in Victoria, by the way, you don't actually have to register to bid. Okay, it's a public auction. Anyone can bid. Now some agencies will say you still have to register. You technically don't. You can just go along. But for peace of mind, a lot of people will register beforehand, just so the agent knows they have interest. Now, there'll be an open for inspection 30 minutes beforehand, and they have to display a contract of sale and some auction rules that you'll be bidding upon too.